2024 Internal English Paper 2 Rewrite number 1. It reads, Sofa heard a loud explosion as soon as he boarded the bus. It reads, Sofa heard a loud explosion as soon as he boarded the bus. Then B, they are simply expecting us to end with when he heard a loud explosion. So when you are answering rewrites, okay, you have first to understand sentence A. It reads, Sofa heard a loud explosion as soon as he heard the bus. Take note that in the first sentence, if you see these words, as soon as or immediately, okay, when you see these words, okay, when you see these words, as soon as or immediately, you have to know that these kinds of rewrites, they do involve no sooner, hardly, scarcely, and barely. These kinds of rewrites, they do involve no sooner, hardly, scarcely, and barely. Okay, and what do they mean? These rewrites, okay, they show something happening immediately after another thing. These kinds of rewrites, they simply show something happening immediately, okay, after something has what happened. Okay, I can say immediately, okay, immediately Sandra entered, okay, entered the room, seen, comma, it started raining. You have seen? So immediately Sandra entered the room, comma, it started raining. So if you check, we have two actions. So these kinds of rewrites, they do carry two actions. So we have this action. So in this case, we have action 1, okay, and also we have what? Action 2, okay. So action 1 simply means the first thing that happened, okay. So if we check, immediately Sandra entered the room, then also we have it started raining. So the first question you must ask yourself, between action 1 and action 2, which action happened at the first? It is action 1. So the first key thing that happened was Sandra entering the room. Then after just entering the room, it started raining. That's what it means. It shows something happening immediately without wasting time. That's what these rewrites, they are all about. They show something happening immediately after another thing has happened. This is what it means. Okay, so you can see, they can say as soon as, or they can say immediately. That's what it means. Okay, simply shows something happening, okay, immediately after something has happened. Now you have to know, in this case we have this, so far heard a loud explosion, okay, we have this action, as soon as, or we can say immediately, he boarded the bus. Now if you check our sentence, okay, we have what? Immediately. After immediately, we have this word, Sandra entered the room. So this sentence qualifies to be action 1, okay. This sentence qualifies to be what? To be action 1. So after just the word immediately, after just the word as soon as, okay, the sentence qualifies to be the first action, okay. After the word immediately, after the word as soon as, the rest of the sentence qualifies to be the first action. Let us look at the question. You see, as soon as he boarded the bus, this simply means this is the first action. This is the first action, okay. So for heard a loud explosion, this simply means it is the action 2, the second action. So we have the first action and the second action. So after just mentioning the word as soon as, okay, the sentence that will follow, okay, the rest of the sentence, it is the action 1. Okay, then the other sentence, it will be what? Action 2. This is what it means. Okay, which means these two actions, they happened immediately without wasting time. Okay, hope we have gotten it, guys. Now let us move. Since we have said that these rewrites, they do involve what? 4 words. They do involve 4 adverbs, which are number 1, no sooner. Okay, they'll say begin no sooner. They can say begin hardly. They can say begin scarcely. And they can say begin barely. Okay, so these are the words you need to know and understand verbal. So here we all know that when the rewrite says begin no sooner, we have to use the word had. So we say no sooner had, or if it says begin hardly, we say hardly had, or when it says begin scarcely, we say scarcely had, or when it says begin barely, we say barely had. If not had, we are going to use the word did. We can say no sooner did, hardly did, scarcely did, barely did. Okay, so take note, when you use had, take note that had is simply the past tense of the word have. Okay, so in this case, the main reason why we use had, it's simply helping us to form the what? The past perfect tense. Okay, it simply it is helping us to maintain the sentence in its what? Past perfect what? Tense. That's the reason why we say begin had. It normally helps us to maintain the sentence in its what? Past perfect tense. It's simply the past tense of the word have. Okay, so when you say no sooner had, which means the verb in your sentence must maintain to be a what? A past tense. Okay, the verb must maintain to be a past tense. What does this simply mean? Check. We have immediately Sandra entered. So Sandra, it is the subject. After the subject, we have the verb. Okay, so this is the verb. A verb is a doing word. Okay, it's an action. Okay, word. So for you to enter something, you take an action. So this word entered, it's a verb. It's a verb. Okay, so when you say no sooner had, okay, you have to maintain the same what? Past tense. You have to maintain the same entered. This is what it means. So when you say no sooner had, you have to maintain the same what? The same verb entered. But if you say no sooner did, which means this past tense, it will change to present tense. Instead of you using entered, you are going to use enter. Why? Because you have used what? Did. Okay, so did is going to change the past tense of the sentence into what? The present tense. Is going to change the verb from its past tense to present tense. This is what it means. Okay, now let us move. So we have said that we can say no sooner had, okay, or no sooner what? Did. We can say hardly had or hardly what? Did. We can say hardly scarcely had or scarcely did, or we can say barely had or barely did. And take note, words like hardly and also scarcely, these are negative words also. Okay, we are going to look at them in the other lesson. Okay, so no sooner, hardly, scarcely, and also what? Barely. So you must know that no sooner, it goes with what? With than. Hardly, when, hardly, scarcely, barely, they go with the word what? When. Now let us construct a simple equation for us to know. So our equation, it will be like this. Now we'll say, so we are going to say no sooner had or no sooner did plus the subject. So subject simply means the doer of the action or the person under discussion. Okay, then I'm going to say plus, so past. Okay, I'm going to say past participle or present. So I'm going to use the past participle if I use the word had. I'm going to use the present participle if I use the word what? Did. So this is how my equation it will look like. So I will say plus subject plus past participle then slash present. Then I will say plus what? Plus than, since no sooner goes with the word what? Than. Then now, after writing this, I'm going to say plus what? Plus subject, which means the other person, okay? Which means the other subject. The same subject, like for example here we have said immediately Sandra. So I have to mention Sandra here, and also I have to mention Sandra on the other what? Side. This is what it means. So here subject, which means I mention Sandra, and also on the other hand I mention Sandra. But don't mention the name. Here it will be Sandra, but on the other side you're going to use she. Okay? Then afterwards, the last part, we're going to say okay plus, then we can simply say the rest of the sentence. So it's had, did plus subject plus past participle, present plus than plus subject. So this is the equation. Including here, we're going to say plus what? Subject plus what? Past what? Past participle. Okay, I'll say slash present. Okay, then I'll say plus when. Okay, then plus what? Subject plus subject. So this is the equation. So hardly, scarcely, barely, they all go with the word what? When. Meaning what? Where there is a comma, where there is a comma in your what? Given sentence, that's where you have to replace the word when. Okay, where there is a comma, that's where you are going to replace the word when. This is what it means in this case. Okay, now let us move. Let us answer now. So if you check, since we have known that hardly, scarcely, and barely, they go with the what? The word when. Okay, now let us look at the question now. You see, it says what? Nsofwa heard a loud explosion as soon as he boarded the bus. Then it says begin dash 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 when he heard a loud explosion. So if you check, we have what? When. Okay, we have when. We have said that the words which go with when are what? Hardly, scarcely, or barely. Okay, so just pick one. Just have to pick one. Take note. We have Nsofwa heard a loud explosion as soon as he boarded the what? The bus. So we have two actions in this sentence. Take note. I've said that after mentioning the word as soon as, this is the first what? Action. Then the other sentence now, it will be the action 2. So here if you check, when he heard a loud what? Explosion. Okay, the other action has been mentioned, which is this one. Now if we remove this one, if we remove it, okay, we are going to remain with what? He boarded the what? The bus. This is the other action we are going to remain with. Okay, so what I'm going to do, so I'll simply say hardly. Why have I used hardly? Because hardly goes with the word what? When. Or I can say scarcely, it goes with the word what? When. Or barely, it goes with the word what? When. This is what it means. So I'll say hardly, hard. Take note, when you're using hard, which means the verb in the actual sentence should maintain its past what? In its past participle. But if you use did, make sure you have to change the verb from its past tense to present what? Tense. So we're going to say hardly, hard. Take note, our equation. Let us go to our equation. So if you check, our equation, it's what? Our equation. Okay, we have had, did, then plus what? The subject. The subject, which means now the person under discussion. So I'm going to say hardly had. Then now the subject, which means the person. Now in this case, according to our question, we have Nsofwa. This is the subject. So I'm going to say hardly had Nsofwa. Take note, all names of people in English, they must be respected with what? It's their first letter must be capitalized like this. So hardly had Nsofwa like this. Okay, after mentioning this is the subject, which is Nsofwa, the person under discussion or the doer of the action, then plus the past what? Present, or past participle or present. Now we are going to use the past participle. Why? Because I have used the word had. But if I said hardly did, I would have used the what? The present, which means I have to change the verb. So hardly had Nsofwa. So we have this, okay, boarded the bus, okay, so I'll say hardly had Nsofwa, okay, boarded. So if it was hardly did, I would have just written board, okay, because I'll change this verb to what? To present tense. So I'll say hardly had Nsofwa boarded the bus, then I'll simply maintain when he heard a loud what? Explosion. So when he, it was he, yeah, when he heard, okay, so when he heard, is it a or they? A, which is an article, a loud explosion, like this is how it's supposed to be done. So hardly had Nsofwa boarded the bus when he heard a loud what? Explosion. Or you can say hardly did Nsofwa board the bus when he heard a loud what? Explosion. This is how it's supposed to be done, guys. All right, so thank you very much.